If you're a busy Christian business owner who hates wasting time in the gym, this is exactly how I'd have you train to look, feel, and perform your absolute best in less than 3 hours per week. Most business owners approach fitness completely backwards. They either grab some random workout plan off of Google, walk into the gym with absolutely no plan at all, or they fall into the trap of one of the cookie cutter bodybuilding routines designed for a 19-year-old with no wife, no kids, no business, and no real responsibilities. And look, I get it. There was a time in my life when I thought fitness was about doing more workouts, more time commitment, and more exhaustion. But as I started working with other high-performing men, guys running businesses, leading their families, and trying to stay sharp mentally, physically, and spiritually, I realized something really important. Fitness isn't just about doing more. It's about doing the right things in the most efficient way possible so that you can actually win in every area of life without the gym just becoming another job. And when you understand how to structure a plan properly, what you realize is that 2 to 3 hours per week is more than enough time to build a strong, lean, and athletic body that serves your calling instead of stealing from your calling. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I would build that plan based on whether or not you have full gym access, all the way down to what I would do if you're traveling or stuck with no equipment at all. Now, before we get into it, if you don't know me, my name is Joey Yochheim. I'm the co-owner of defaultkings.com. We're an online Christian fitness coaching company that helps men lose weight and build discipline using biblical principles. And to date, we've had over 800 men come through our program, and they've lost a combined total of over 10,000 pounds, and that ranges anywhere from 10 to 200 pounds per guy. So when it comes to actually building a structured plan that is sustainable for high-performing guys living busy, chaotic professional lives as well as family lives, we tend to know a thing or two about what we're doing. So now that you know that you can trust me, let's get into the actual workouts.
The best workout plan is one that maximizes results in minimum time and is flexible. That way you can stick to it no matter what circumstance life throws at you. And the big bonus here is that in reality, you should always be getting your programming done by a professional. It doesn't have to be us at defaultkings.com, but it should be somebody who is qualified in the field and building something specific to you. The danger with templatized programs is that it isn't exactly based on you, your needs, your time, your resources, your injury history, your experience, or anything like that. It doesn't consider that at all. It just throws you into something that is general and broad, which obviously increases your risk of injury and reduces the rate of success. So the big kind of bonus tip here is that, yes, I'm going to walk you through some programs, but at the end of the day, my recommendation is always seek out a professional to build one specifically for you. Now, for the sake of the video, I can't possibly walk you through a custom program for you because we're strangers on the internet. I don't know anything about you, and you probably are just learning stuff about me. And that would require me sitting down and having a line-by-line assessment with you about where you're at, what your lifestyle looks like. But what I can do instead is show you an example of custom programs from guys who have gone through our company because they're likely in somewhat of a similar situation to you. And again, it won't be perfect, but it will be more than enough to get you going in the right direction. But again, I'll second my earlier point. You should always end up finding a professional to fine-tune this for you. So one of the programs I'll be sharing was from our client's gym plan, and the other one will be from our client's body weight only plan because he was somebody who owned multiple businesses. He had 5 kids. He was active in local politics and in his church. So this guy's always on the go, and he had a nice home gym setup, which was great for what we built him. But there were times when he was on the road and he had nothing other than his body weight. And so he wanted to still stick to the plan. So he had 2 plans to swap between. So I'll be showing you both of those because you may or may not be able to relate to having to go back and forth. Or best case scenario, you probably have a gym. Worst case scenario, like everybody else, you at least got your body weight. Now, before I get into it, be sure to take some notes, pay attention, because I'll be going off script quite a lot on this. As you can see, there's actually really no script in front of me here. And it will be very important for you to get these minor details that aren't in the listed programs because they are going to give you the context to do them successfully. It's one thing to have the itemized list of what you need to be doing. It's another thing to actually know how to do it and how to apply it, which I will be covering for you. But again, it will be off script, so make sure you're taking notes, paying attention. That way you actually get the most out of this video. Now, if you want your own copy of the documents that I'm going to be sharing on the screen in front of you in just a second here, you can find them inside of our free group, Fit Through Faith. I'll have a link in the description below, because not only will these 2 programs be in there, but there's a plethora of other ones, as well as more resources for you guys in our classroom section. But before I go into the program specifically, let me actually cover a little bit of background, like I mentioned earlier. So the first piece of background that I want to give you is how I, as a coach, make decisions on somebody's programming. And I am always optimizing for longevity and consistency long term. A lot of people, and this commonly happens around New Year's, everybody has their resolutions or some other life event. They decide they want to go all in on fitness. And what happens is they put 7 days a week, 2 hours per day on their calendar. And that's really great in theory and on paper, but life throws you curveballs and it's not that practical. And usually they'll last a few weeks or maybe a few months at best, burn out, and completely quit altogether. That's not good. I would much rather somebody dip their toe in and start with maybe 3 days a week for 30, 45 minutes each and work their way up if they so choose to over time. Again, the reality is 3, maybe 4 days a week, 45 minutes-ish each, you can get results. 2 to 3 hours a week is more than enough time to get results in your health and fitness. So I would much rather you start off small and build the consistency long-term, because the guy who does 3 days a week for 10 years is going to be in a better spot than the guy who did 7 days a week for 3 months. It's just reality. So I'm always looking through the pragmatic or practical application lens, and that is usually starting off small. So that is why when you come in here, if you decide to come in here, you'll see 3, 4, and 5 days per week. But my recommendation is always starting off small, and the program I'll be walking you through is a 3-day per week program, both the gym and the bodyweight one. So that's a little background on how to select a program. Again, my advice is always optimizing for consistency and sustainability long term. Now, before we actually go into the programs themselves, I want you to have a few key terms and definitions so you understand what I'm talking about and the vernacular that I'm using when I overview the programs. So first things first, a workout is the entire group of exercises, right? So you will see lists like this when I share screen. That is the entire workout. Each individual movement is an exercise. So leg press is an exercise in this entire workout, right? These are all individual exercises. This is the whole workout. Now, sets are the groups of repetitions that you do or that are performed consecutively before taking a rest period. Okay, so sets would be, let's say, for example, I did 3 reps, 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 set. 1, 2, 3, rest. That would be 2 sets, right? 1, 2, 3, rest. That would be my 3rd set. So the sets are the groups of repetitions. And again, the reps are the individual movements that you do of each exercise. 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps, right? RIR, reps in reserves, is a measure of intensity that is calculated by roughly estimating how many reps you have left in reserve. So continuing to use that overhead press example, if I'm going and I get 3, 4, 5 reps in and I start to get to this point where there's nothing left and I'm starting to crank out the reps at the end and I finally get to the point where I can't do it anymore, that's RIR 0. There were no reps left in the tank. Okay, none. Right? That is the point that is usually prescribed in the programs that we are going to go through. There's a lot of data proving that the majority of your muscle gain and your actual results are coming in the last 3 reps. So 0, 1, and 2 RIR. So you have to train intensely, and it has to be physical failure. It can't just be psychological failure. You can't just be tired or sick of it or this is kind of getting hard and stopping. It has to be gun to head. I couldn't do another rep. Gun to head, I only have 2 reps left in the tank, or 1 rep left in the tank, or no reps left in the tank. It cannot be psychological failure. It has to be physical failure. And technically, it's defined as mechanical failure, which means your ability to do the rep safely. So if you start to get to a point where you have to cheat to do the rep, you're at mechanical failure. Okay, you're at mechanical RIR 0, 1, or 2, which is where you need to be. Rest is obviously the time between sets. Superset is performing 2 exercises back to back. So let's say I did curls, put it down straight into tricep extensions, right? No rest in between them. Okay, that would be a superset. A circuit is 3 or more consecutively before taking a rest. So let's say I did bicep curls, tricep extensions, and then, I don't know, wrist curls. Right? 1, 2, 3. You could extrapolate that all the way out to like 8, 9, or 10 exercises, which is very common in like the CrossFit world. I'm not too big of a fan of it, but it's effective for some people and it gets results for some people. Okay. Now, lastly, progressive overload. Okay. This is gradually increasing the difficulty of workouts over time. what this actually looks like is week in and week out, you are either adding more reps or more weight to the movements that you are doing. Once I get into the specific programs, I'll teach you how to do this most effectively so that you can continue to progress over time. But it's very, very straightforward and very simple to understand once I show you inside of an actual program. So there's a brief overview on how I make program decisions as a coach, and also some key terms and definitions that you need to understand for these workouts to make sense for you. Finally, we're here. We are going to start with the actual gym workout program. So this is going to require that you have access to a gym, like a membership or something like that, or like our client did in this case, have a pretty advanced at-home gym with a ton of different equipment. So he's got a pretty nice setup. So he was able to do this at home. Most of you won't be able to do this at home with your home gym setup. It's usually going to require some sort of gym membership. All right, so let's dive in. First things first, every workout starts with a movement prep. You can think about this as a warm-up in your mind. Reason number one is we need to prevent injuries. And if you go in cold, you are massively increasing the risk that you get hurt. And if you get hurt, you can't train, then you fall off the wagon, you slip into old habits and never train again. And maybe that's a little bit of an extreme example, but after working with hundreds of people, it's not too far off the mark. That happens quite a bit. Right? So we have to warm up to prevent injury, but it's also to get the most out of the time that we're in there. Of course, if your muscles are more warm, they can do more reps, they can move more weight, which means more total volume, which means more results. Right? Now, somebody who's a training nerd is going to clip that and try to pin me up to a wall and say more volume doesn't always equal more results. But the reality is there's a strong correlation. So if we properly warm up the muscles, we'll be able to actually get more out of the training sessions, which is going to, again, maximize results and minimize your time. So this is what the movement prep looked like for this client specifically. And we were doing more of like a full body style movement prep before each workout. Some people prefer to get super specific. So if they're doing upper body, they only do an upper body workout. If they're doing legs, they only do a leg workout. That's fine. My preference though is to just warm up the whole body, because most of the stuff that we're going to be doing is going to require the whole body to at least be activated. If you really understand the mechanics of lifting, even if you're doing a bench press, if you're doing it correctly, your legs are engaged, your quads are engaged, your core is engaged, your back's engaged, everything's engaged, right? When we do these core movement patterns, everything is working if you're doing it properly. And if that sounds crazy to you, then again, you probably just need to be in a room of people who are lifting at a higher level or training at a higher level and have some sort of professional teach you how to do it in a way where everything is being stimulated. Now, of course, some things are isolation, but again, we prefer to just do a full body warm up. So you will see the links to the actual videos here. I'm not going to screen share the video tutorials of these because otherwise this YouTube video that you're watching would be like 2 hours long. So I highly recommend you obviously access this document. I'll have a direct link to this document too. If you don't feel like joining the free group to get it, it's cool, whatever. I'll put it in the link as well, or excuse me, in the description as well. So you can go in here and open these and watch them yourself. But looking at how to do these, again, you have the name of the exercises here. This is your warm up. You do 1 set, 8 to 15 mindful reps, 2 sets, 8 to 15 mindful reps. Notice these aren't prescribed in RIR. They aren't prescribed in intensity because it's a warm up. You don't need to warm up to fit, right? The whole point is to just get blood flow. So we just call that mindful reps. Take your time going through it. Really make sure you're contracting the proper muscles based on what we tell you to do in these actual movement prep tutorials. Okay, so that's number one. Now, your first workout of the week is going to be a push workout. Okay, now I'm just going to pause here and just let you go ahead and screenshot this and look this over in terms of what we're actually doing. Now that you've had a second to do that, going line by line, how you actually execute this workout is you do your flat dumbbell bench press. Right? You do 1 set, rest 2 minutes, 2 sets, rest 2 minutes, 3 sets, rest 2 minutes. And then you move on to the next exercise. Same thing, move on to the next one, same thing, move on to the next one. And then you get into your first superset. So the superset, again, like I mentioned earlier, is you do these back to back before taking a rest. So you do your seated lateral raise, and then you do your dumbbell skull crusher, and then you rest for 90 seconds, and then you start back at the top. And then you do it again, and then you rest for 90 seconds, and you start back at the top, right? This is a superset of 2 sets though, so you'd only come back to the top twice. And then same thing, you have another superset here, and we have what we call the man boot blaster. It's just a fun finisher. At the end of the day, our finisher is the most effective thing in the world for building muscle. Not necessarily, but they're fun and they're a good time. People enjoy them. It gets a good little pump going. So that's more for fun, right? But you have that as well. All the video tutorials will be here. Now, this is your first again, push workout. And a common question that people will ask is, do I have to do the workouts in the direct order that they're prescribed? So in this one, push, then pull, then lower. The answer is no. Like you don't have to do push, pull, and then lower. You could do lower, pull, and then push, or pull and push, then lower. Do what works for you. Ideally, you put at least a day in between each of these workouts. Okay. You need to give your muscles time to recover. Right? That way, you go back in, get as much out of the workouts as you can, and also do not jeopardize injury. Similar to the whole warm-up idea. You have to allow your body to prepare. The whole point of resistance training and lifting weights is to break down muscle tissue, and the only way for it to build back is with good recovery and sleep. And so if you break down muscle tissue and then go back in the next day and it's only half recovered and try to break it down again, you're just drastically reducing your results. And that's why a lot of guys come into DK, our program specifically, and they're surprised at how much success they see doing less than they were doing before. It's because they're actually giving their muscles enough time to recover. Okay, so common questions that I want to cover for you. This is your first push workout. And this is your pull workout. Notice no supersets here. This is just straight through. It's line by line by line by line. Again, looking at this as well. Some people are under the belief that you need to be doing 5, 6, 7 sets of things. It's just not the case. Not the case. Everything you'll see us prescribed is usually going to be 1, 2, and 3 sets. Every now and then you might get a Hail Mary 4-set exercise, but that's pretty rare because if you are training to the intensity of RIR 0, you are getting the results out of it that you need to get. You are stimulating the muscles to the degree that they need to be stimulated. You do not need to do what is called junk volume, as it's often referred to, because you are only setting yourself up to get hurt. 2 to 3 sets, training to failure or within 3 reps of failure is going to be more than enough for you to see results, so long as you continue to progressively overload. Okay, so this is your pull workout. Right. Now, on the note of progressive overloading, I'll use the lower workout to describe that in more detail for you, as I promised you that I would. So looking at the lower workout real quick, take your time to look it over, screenshot it if you want. When it comes to progressive overload, like I mentioned earlier, it's essentially coming in and doing either more reps or more weight than you did last time. So how this would look practically speaking is, let's say I came in to do a leg press, and on the first set, I did 12 reps of 100 pounds. I hit the top of my rep range. That would mean you went too light. Okay, so if the goal is to achieve RIR 0 within 6 to 12 reps, if you got to 12 reps of your weight and you weren't at RIR 0, you did not do what you were supposed to do based on this program assignment. You went too light. So if you go over the rep range, you're training too light. If you go under the rep range, you're training too heavy. And again, the goal would be every time you come in each week to do this again, you increase either the reps or the weight. So using that example, did 12 reps at 100 pounds. Okay. Next time you come in, you need to up the weight because you already topped out the rep range. So let's say you go to 150 pounds and you get 8 reps. And then on your second set, you get 7 reps. And then on your third set, you get 6 reps. That would be a great training week, right? And you still have up to 4 more reps to go before you're topping out of the rep range. So next time you come in, you still use 150 pounds and you keep using 150 pounds each week until you cap out and hit 12 reps. And then you would bump it to the next weight up. So let's just say 200 pounds to make it easy. And then what will happen is you just did 150 pounds for 12 last week. You come in, you bump it to 200. You're probably only going to do 6, 7, 8 reps. And then you stay at 200 until you top out the rep range. That is progressive overload in practice. Okay. You are trying to hit the prescribed level of intensity. So in this case, RIR 0, you're trying to hit failure within this prescribed rep range. Okay. Same thing goes for like this lying leg curl, even though it's a bigger rep range. 3 sets, 8 to 20, you need to be doing a weight that you are hitting failure between 8 and 20 reps. And if you hit 20 reps, you went too light. If you did 8 reps or less, you went too heavy. Okay. And it's an easy description in practice of how to do progressive overload. Okay. So that makes up the actual gym workout program. Of course, there's still a few more common questions that are going to come up that I'm going to walk you through here as we go into the actual body weight program. Now, the next program I'm going to break down for you is the body weight only plan. And it's still 3 days per week. And the purpose of it is to help you when you find yourself in a pinch. So some practical examples of a pinch are, hey, you're on vacation and you got there and it turns out there's no gym. Or you got to a hotel for a work trip and all they have is treadmills. You're now in this spot where your options are two things. It's either you do nothing or you do something with what you always have on you, which is your body weight. You always have that. Okay. So it's always better to do that as opposed to nothing. And will it be scientifically optimal in terms of our ability to target specific muscle groups and specific strength movement patterns? No, it's not optimal. There's a lot less flexibility there because you're limited with what you have in terms of what you can do physiologically, but it's still something, right? And you can still at least hit some of the core movement patterns that are going to build muscle and keep you functionally strong. Okay. So that's what the body weight plan is for. Again, I'm going to scroll through this and answer some common FAQs as they come to mind for me, because again, I've been doing this long enough to know what questions are probably coming to your mind as we flip through it. So the movement prep for body weight is again relatively similar. It's a full body movement prep. Now, I'll let you screenshot this. And again, if you want access to this document, I'll make sure I have it linked below, and it's also in the free group that you can always go to and actually see the video tutorials on how to do these. All right, but here's a good example of it. Now, a classic question that we get for warm-ups is when you are looking at your workouts, are you supposed to do the movement prep and then go straight into what are known as your working sets? Your working sets are the sets that you are taking to RIR 0. So you should be taking all 3 sets to RIR 0 if that's what this says. A lot of people see this and they're like, oh, 3 sets. Well, 1 set's going to be a warm-up. My second set's going to be a decent one, and my third one will be a hard one. No. What is prescribed and what is written up is the working sets. So if after your movement prep, you don't feel sufficiently warm and you don't feel safe going in and doing push-ups to failure, for this example, but again, it could be any exercise, you should do a warm-up set of push-ups and then move into your 3 working sets. I highly recommend that in general. I do it personally. I have a movement prep, and then before every exercise, I make sure I do at least 1 set of about 50 to 60% of the resistance that I'm going to do to failure. Okay. But again, the same principles apply doing body weight movements as any of the at gym movements. And again, I will pause and move my cursor so you can take a screenshot of this if you haven't already. Again, so all of the same principles are going to apply, right? You need to come in here, and if you're doing the push-ups, right, trying to go to failure within 8 to 30 reps. If for some reason you're able to do 35 reps before failing or 40 reps before failing, then you should be trying to add weight to the push-ups. You should try to add resistance and progressively overload them and fail within the prescribed range. So what does that look like with body weight? It looks like you getting resourceful. So let's say you packed a book bag, right? What can you put in that backpack in order to add weight to this? Right? Maybe you have a weighted vest at home, right? How do you add a weighted vest in here? How much do you put in the weighted vest? And you keep messing with it until you find a way to cause RIR 0 to happen between 8 and 30 reps. Okay. Same thing with all of these other movements. Now, the pool workout for body weight only, you will see here. Feel free to screenshot accordingly. You will notice a lot of makeshift terminology in here. And makeshift is always going to be us using the resources at our disposal, or that are at least commonly at our disposal, to mimic equipment that you would have in a gym. So for example, a makeshift neutral grip row, this is going to be a bent over row, or something that you would be doing on a seated rower, right, with your backpack, or if you're on the go with a luggage, right? And you're using the resources at your disposal to replicate those same movement patterns that you would have at a gym if you had a cable setup or dumbbells or a barbell. Right? That's what makeshift is. Right? So again, feel free to screenshot and click into these videos in the document yourself. Now into the lower. And one thing to be cautious of, or at least aware of, is, guys, a lot of people like to shortcut the rest periods. And the reality is you need the rest periods because you need your muscles to actually recover ATP to be able to do them effectively. If you're just shortcutting all of your rest times, you're going to be doing less reps, therefore less volume, therefore getting less muscle building. Okay, so when you see these prescribed rep times, this is us actually being a little bit too liberal with the rest times, right? Like we're a little bit short on them. realistically, we should probably be more conservative on these. And this should probably say more like 3 or 4 minutes. This should probably say more like 2-3 minutes as opposed to 90 seconds. This is us optimizing for people who are busy, right? Business owners, executives, professionals, etc. This guy whose program this was, again, owns 5 businesses, has 5 kids. He's short on time. So he shortened the rest times about as much as we could with his program. But the reality is more rest is actually generally better in between sets when you are doing resistance training, because you are going to get more out of the sets. So don't try to shortcut these rest times, because they're already pretty shortcutted. Right? Ideally, you probably do about 1.5 to 2 times what it says in there if you have the time to do it. If you're pressed for time, just do what's assigned in here. But if you can stretch it out more, because you will be getting more quality sets with your workout.
Hey, what's going on? Real quick, if you are a Christian entrepreneur and you are looking to lose anywhere from 10 to 50 pounds over the course of the next 12 weeks and you want our help doing so, all you have to do is go to defaultkings.com and book a time to chat with us. We'll see whether or not we're fit to work together, whether or not we can help you. And if we can, we'll of course build you out some higher level strategies and let you know exactly what it looks like to partner up. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, send it to a friend in need, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.